All right, so this is the first video for your Proust questionnaire. In this video, we're going to set up our document in InDesign, and then we're going to get our image and create the clipping path and edit the image so that way it's ready to go and ready to be imported into InDesign. So let's start off with opening up InDesign. So in the bottom left, you should have the Windows icon, and then you're going to go to InDesign. So click InDesign, and that's going to open. So go ahead and fire it up. While you're doing that, or while that's getting booted up, you're going to make sure you have week 14 open on eClass. You're going to need one of the links here. So have this open. Also, if you haven't answered the Proust questions, make sure you've done that. That needs to be done before you get started in this. So, all right, answer those questions, have InDesign pulled up. InDesign here, you're going to click New File. Let me hide this real quick. And then the very first thing you ever do when you set up a document in a program is change the units. Make sure you're working in the right units. So we want to be in inches. The width is going to be 8.5. The height's going to be 11 because it's like one page magazine. We want one page. We do not want facing pages. So facing pages is like when you read a book or a magazine. Those are two pages facing each other. We don't want facing pages. If you scroll, you should see that margins for top, bottom, left, right should be 1/2 inch. Leave that as is. Bleed, you're going to have to enter 0.125. So if you enter it for top, it's going to adjust it for bottom or whatever. I believe you can also just use the little arrow to go up once, and that's going to give you 0.125. All right, so that's all we need. Then we're going to hit create. All right, and let me just give you a breakdown of what we just did and how it manifests in this document. So the margins, 0.5 margins that we talked about, that's represented with this pink and purple line. So this is 1/2 inch margin all around the page, right? Obviously the edge right here, that's the edge of the page. We usually refer to this as the artboard in Illustrator. That's the edge of the artboard. And then the red line here, that's the bleed line. And what this does is if we create some kind of colorful shape, let's say we want this to be like a rectangle in the corner. If we wanted to create that, instead of making that shape go just to the edge of the page, you want it to go to the edge of the bleed. And what that's going to do is just make sure that if you print this, then it's going to ensure us that there's no mishap. If we print this and we left it at the edge, there's a chance you could see a white line right here. So this is just the bleed. It's going past the surface, past the edge, and that way if we pay money to print it, our money won't go to waste. The print copies will be good, right? Because we wouldn't want that. So that's the bleed line. All right. Okay, cool. Next thing, you're going to save this file. So go to File at the top and then Save As. File, Save As, and then you're going to go to Documents and then look for your IGDS2 folder. Double click on that. In IGDS2, in the white space, you're going to right click and go to New Folder. Make a new folder, and you're going to rename it Proust, P-R-O-U-S-T. Go ahead and double click on Proust to enter it. As you can see, we're inside. And now you're going to rename the file. We want to name the file Proust Questionnaire, as you can see right here. Proust Questionnaire. Question, N-A-I-R-E. That's how you spell questionnaire. Proust Questionnaire. Once you've renamed it, go ahead and hit Save, and that's going to save your InDesign document. Okay, we'll come back to this. You can actually exit out after you saved it because we are done with the first part of InDesign. So we're going to let that hang out. I already saved mine from earlier. Okay, close out of InDesign. Now let's open up Photoshop. So let's fire up Photoshop as Photoshop's getting ready to open. You're going to go to week 14 of E-class. Week 14 of E-class on Tuesday, Wednesday, that's when we took pictures. So on our block day, we took the portraits. If you didn't take one, maybe you can take one on Thursday if you're here. If we haven't talked yet, come see me because you'll need a portrait. But if you were here Tuesday, Wednesday on your block day, then you're going to go to your class period. So right now we've only got first and third so far. So I'm going to go to first period as an example. And these are all first periods. Portraits. You're going to choose the one that you want to use. So let's say I'm going to use this one. And you're going to download it. If you don't see the download icon, click on the 3 buttons or 3 dots. And then you should see a download option right here. But anyways, download it. Let it download, and it'll show on my bar down here that it's downloading, but I've already have it downloaded, so I don't need to wait. Anyways, it's downloaded. It's in your computer. There we go. And now once you have your image downloaded, let's go back to Photoshop. And in Photoshop, you're going to click Open. We're opening an existing file. And our file is in downloads. We just downloaded it, so it's going to be in downloads. So click on downloads, and you should see your image should be the most recent one. So click that, the one at the tippity top, and then click open. And it opens up your image in Photoshop. Okay, so with this right here, first thing you're going to do, I'm going to move myself over here so you can see the layers. On the bottom here, the half moon, and click this. Let's just take a moment to look at this. Look at all the options here. We have solid color, gradient, brightness, contrast, curves, hue, saturation, vibrance, color balance. All right, so we've used this before in Photoshop to make backgrounds, color overlays, things like that, but we're going to use it for the editing image purposes. So we want a brightness contrast adjustment. So if I click that, you see how it makes a new layer here, and this is where you can adjust the brightness. Let's say we want to make it brighter because maybe the atrium was a little too dark, or we want to lower the contrast a little bit so that it looks softer, or we want to raise it so that it looks sharp. Just play around with it, and whatever you think looks best, very editorial, you can keep it, right? So we adjusted brightness, contrast. Then we're going to return to the half moon and look for color balance. So color balance, another term for color balance is white balance. And this is when you edit photos or film. Reason why it's called white balance is because if you take a picture and something is supposed to be white, and this is a good example here, her outfit is white, right? But I can see that the white is a little bit yellow. It's a little yellow, and so we need to adjust that. Excuse me. So I can see here yellow. The opposite is blue. So I'm going to go to the opposite of yellow. I'm going to raise the blue up, and it's already looking a little whiter. But now it's looking a little bit pink, so I'm going to maybe move it to green a little bit, and maybe move away from red to cyan. And so you see now that white is looking like pure white. So that's color balance or white balance. So you want to do that. Chances are if you took your picture in the atrium, you're going to need to adjust for sure the yellow to blue. We want to make it a little bit more blue because the lighting in there is really yellow. All right, color balance. I think that looks good. So after you're done with that, go ahead and return to the half moon, and you're going to go to Vibrance, yeah. All right, vibrance is like the cherry on top. And you don't need much. It helps photos that are a little washed out look clear in terms of color. Saturation, you raise the saturation. I'm going to show you an extreme example. Boom, it is like saturated, right? We just want a little bit of that, right? Because it makes our colors look more colorful. That's what saturation does. Vibrant, if you raise to the top, it makes it more vibrant, but we don't need that much. But as you can see, vibrance isn't as extreme as saturation. All right, so something like that looks good. And see how these are all layers? That means that it's called toggle visibility when you're like going between. So you're going in back and forth, and you can see the difference that the saturation makes. You can see the difference that the color balance makes. As you can see, before it's really yellow, afterwards it's less yellow. Brightness and contrast, slight difference, but these small differences make it look more natural and elevated. So once you have your photo adjusted and adjusted everything the way you want it to look, the next step is to make a clipping path. Clipping path is like the crop that's like right around your subject. But before we do that, I want us to do something, and we have to do this because I want y'all to learn it. But there's 4 layers here, right? We have to combine these 4 layers into one and then mask that one layer. Because before, we never made any adjustments. So we would just make the mask directly on that image layer. But since we have adjustments, we have to turn it into one layer. So what you're going to do is click your background layer, make sure it's selected in light gray, and then hold shift with your left hand. And then, so I'm holding shift. And then I'm going to click the topmost layer, which is my vibrance layer. And now all of them are light gray. That's how you know they're all selected. So then you're going to right click over those layers and go to convert to smart object. And you'll see what that will do in just a moment. So it's loading, and I have 4 layers in my layers panel, and it merges it into one smart object. Then I'm going to do that same thing again, right click, and instead of convert to smart object, I'm going to rasterize layer. And so instead of a smart object, it's a layer. Well, knowing the difference right now is not important, but just know that you need to get it to a layer. What I just showed you here, this process of taking 4 layers, condensing it into one, first a smart object and then a layer, rasterized layer, that is one of the keys of Photoshop. Because think about if you start making really complex things from scratch, like let's say you want to make some insane effects like fire or clouds or like a big sky or something, or chrome. If you're creating things, let's say you have 4 layers, then you get to 50 layers. It's a lot, and the program ends up crashing. So what you need to do is make something, convert it to a smart object, like maybe 4 or 5 layers, convert it to smart object, rasterize layer, and continuing that process, and you're condensing basically that information, so that way your program doesn't crash. So, and it also keeps it more organized. But anyways, yeah, so you have your 1 layer now, and now we can do the clipping path thing. So you're going to go to the toolbar on the left side, count 1, 2, 3, 4, and it doesn't matter which one of these you select. They're all going to give us the same option that we're looking for in just a moment. So right now I'm on quick selection tool. That's fine. Doesn't matter. And then you're going to go to the top here where it says select subject. So click that and let it load. Give it time. It's doing its thing. It's working. Okay. You're going to see a green bar load on your computers. Give it time to load the full thing. If you start clicking other stuff, the computer is going to get really behind and lag. So just give it some time. Once that green bar is fully loaded, then it'll end up with the marching ants around your subject. So this is a really good marching ants pathway. It did a really good job calculating that. So once you have a good path, she's not missing a leg, or like it's not adding in a chunk of the wall, that's a good clipping path. If you need to adjust it for whatever reason, let's say it did take it did add a chunk of the wall, just go to this tool, right click, quick selection tool. It's like a brush for selection, and you can hold down Alt to take something off. So I just took off the top of her head, right? Or I can just click and it'll add more to my selection if you needed to do that. Okay, anyways, this is really good and it should work for the most part, so don't worry about that. Once it looks really good, you're going to go back to near the half moon. To the left of the half moon, there's a rectangle with a circle in the center. And you're going to click that, and that's the layer mask button. So the layer mask button, it masked the background, what was not selected. And so this is an image and a mask. We're going to right click, and you guessed it, convert to smart object. And we're going to just convert to smart object. We don't need to rasterize layer. Smart object is good for this purpose. Convert to smart object, and then with your keyboard, you're going to go Control T. T stands for transform, because we want to transform this. We want to make the subject bigger. So that way she fills up the image edges. So that's good. And then we're going to press the check mark, click the check mark. And lastly, go to File, Export, Export As. And remember, PNG is the file format that allows transparencies. So that's what we want, because we want a transparent surrounding. So PNG transparency is checked, and we see the gray and white checkerboard on the background. So that's good. Then you're going to export documents, IGDS2, Proust, and then go ahead and drop it in that and save it in that folder. So go ahead and click save. I already have a save, so I'm not going to click save. But anyways, click save.